Hello all, thanks for tuning in. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the 1939-1940 World's Fair layout in New York City. This engine ran there, so in 1939 it was called Railroads at Work. 1940, when they held over the fair trying to recoup some of their losses, they renamed the layout Railroads in Action. And you can see this marvelous coal tipple that they made for the hopper cars. It was all animated. And how do we know that this engine ran there? Well, that ERR is Eastern Railroads, where all the Eastern Railroads pooled their money together to put on this exhibit. And here we have the oil refinery. And there's our little switcher there. There's another view of the refinery with a switcher there. They actually had 3 switchers. And we know that they at least had 2 because this is 103, and if you can read here, this is 102. Now you might say this is a rather plain Jane looking engine. You would be correct, but you weren't supposed to look at it anywhere near this close. You're supposed to get back about 10 or 20 feet or 40 feet, 50 feet, because the railroad that it ran on, here is the layout and kind of a panorama. This is 160 feet long and 40 feet deep. To view the railroad, you would be sitting in an auditorium which sat around 300 people, so you'd be back from the trains quite a distance. So all these cast aluminum cars look pretty darn good from 20 or 30 feet away. The cars were Alexander cars. He designed them, the different container cars, and they came up with this rather unique coupler. The rubber band is not original, but this coupler here has springs to keep it centered, and they were able to uncouple and couple as they wished along the various parts of the railroad. They had an operating hump track, and they had these unique trucks with ball bearing wheels, because these trains would run basically 10 hours a day for 6 months at a crack for 2 years. So they have a lot of miles on them. And you can see they're generically calling them the Eastern Railroads, not highlighting any particular railroad. Here are a couple more scenes from the layout. It was absolutely immense. Huge roundhouse, huge station, operating boat. You can see the refinery there. In the background here for perspective, so you had O scale down here, and then the perspective to get much smaller back here. This was double O trains that were running. But it was absolutely a beautiful layout. Now, as you can clearly see here, this was a 2-rail layout. So why am I running on outside 3rd rail here? Well, probably 50, 60, 80 years ago, someone compromised the insulation on the drivers here, so it then became a 3-rail engine. So 1939, the layout was pinnacle in getting the push for O-scale to go 2-rail. So the cars are all 2-rail. The engine used to be 2-rail, but we have to run it on outside 3rd rail because of the compromised insulation on the drivers. So all good things come to an end. At the end of the World's Fair in 1940, they disassemble the layout and then reassemble it for Christmas at Macy's in the 5th floor toy department. And at the end of the holiday season, Christmas season, they then sell everything off piecemeal. You could buy the whole thing if you wanted to, if you just happen to have an extra space for 160 feet by 40 feet deep, but that didn't happen. So they ended up selling it piecemeal. And you can see here they had Hudsons and Pacifics. They had a beautiful Crusader on the hunt for looking for that. There was a Mikado, Mountains, and then these switchers. These 3 switchers here were $79.95 each, and they had 3 of them that they were selling off. So, and then the various rolling stock here. There were 7 cabooses. I've yet to see one. Passenger cars, etc. The most thing they had were these hopper cars. They had 48 of those that they made. So, thank you for watching. Again, this was $79 used. It had been used heavily for 2 years, so it was kind of expensive. The engines, we believe, are accredited to Fred Icken, because they had to be overbuilt for commercial use. So, built like a tank, built like just a brick on wheels, runs well. Cast aluminum tender here, and then the cars are all cast aluminum. You'd find these cars in Alexander's catalog with standard trucks. So after you bought this from Macy's, the first thing, of course, you do would look at these ridiculous couplers. You take those off. You look at these goofy trucks, take those off. So unfortunately, a lot of the cars were neutered and no longer have the original components. So thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe.